Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're putting on our economist hats to break down the structural mechanisms behind the modern paycheck-to-paycheck reality. We're going to look at the cold hard numbers of what is actually happening in the average American's bank account in 2026, but maybe more importantly, we're really going to dig into the stark, honestly terrifying correlation between high living costs and life expectancy. So, let's get into it.
All right, let's jump right in with a staggering statistic from 2026. A massive 67% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, think about that. That is 2/3 of the country operating with absolutely zero margin for error. They get paid, that money instantly evaporates into living costs that have just soared over the last few years. And by the time the next paycheck rolls around, they're right back at zero.
And this begs a really fundamental economic question. How are engineers, lawyers, and mid-level managers making well over $100,000 a year finding themselves with completely empty bank accounts by the end of the month? Because if it's not just a minimum wage problem, what exactly is happening to the middle class?
To solve this mystery, we've structured today's explainer into 5 key areas. 1. The paycheck-to-paycheck reality. 2. The math of modern life. 3. High earners, zero savings. 4. The ultimate cost, health. And 5. Navigating the structural trap.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the paycheck-to-paycheck reality, analyzing the macro data.
So, institutional data from the Bank of America Institute in late 2025 shows us that nearly 24% of all households have necessity spending that consumes over 95% of their income. Let that sink in for a second. 1 in 4 households has literally zero emergency savings. There is absolutely nothing between them and total financial catastrophe if a car breaks down or, heaven forbid, a medical emergency strikes.
And the macro deficit we're facing right now is brilliantly illustrated here. Americans are currently saving a paltry 3.5% of their income. It's become this brutal choice between saving for the future or surviving the present. And right now, survival is winning. People are completely abandoning the 8% historical average, let alone that 20% benchmark that financial experts say you actually need to build real wealth.
Now, what's really fascinating about Bank of America's internal data is how it proves lower-income households are bearing the absolute brunt of this. Almost 29% of lower-income households are living paycheck to paycheck as of 2025. And this is largely because their wages have actually been easing up, while inflation and the cost of basic necessities have remained remarkably sticky.
In fact, the financial baseline has shifted so drastically that a recent Talker research survey found something almost unbelievable. Over a third of hourly workers, 39%, say living paycheck to paycheck would actually be an improvement for them, because right now they're falling short of even that, relying incredibly heavily on credit cards and buy now, pay later debt literally just to survive the month.
Moving right along to Section 2, the math of modern life when costs outpace wages.
The crucial point here is understanding the underlying math causing this widespread distress. If we look at data from the Citizens Committee for Children of New York, we see exactly how unavoidable core expenses mathematically swallow a 6-figure salary before discretionary spending even begins. In major cities, housing is eating up to 50% of income. Childcare? That demands up to 16%. Healthcare requires over $5,200 out of pocket, on average, and 5.3% goes just to service existing debt. Guys, the math simply does not leave room for savings.
As economists, we define this as a structural trap. We're dealing with an economic condition where the system literally extracts more from consumers than it used to. These massive, unavoidable expenses have outpaced wage growth by staggering margins. This makes people poorer in real terms, effectively shredding their purchasing power, even if they earn nominally more money than their parents did at their age.
Civic science data visually confirms this whole survival mode mentality. We can see a measurable shift in what actually causes people anxiety. Immediate basic living expenses now rank as the primary stressor for 39% of households. That easily outranks long-term security and investing, which sits down at just 18%. People aren't planning anymore, they're just treading water.
Which brings us to Section 3, high earners, zero savings, and the psychology of the hamster wheel.
Let's see how this structural math builds into the psychological traps specifically affecting the upper middle class. It is wild that 1 in 5 households making over $150,000 are trapped in the exact same cycle. There's actually an acronym for this demographic, HENRY, which stands for High Earners, Not Rich Yet. Shockingly, 62% of people earning over $300,000 a year still struggle with credit card debt. They are highly susceptible to lifestyle creep. Spending on elevated restaurants, $5,000 espresso machines, and bigger homes scales up perfectly alongside their career promotions. There's this quote from a New York City high earner featured in the CNBC documentary that just perfectly captures the acute anxiety of the Henry demographic. They are earning top-tier income, but feeling completely unable to stop working without facing immediate financial ruin. It is a high-class hamster wheel for sure, but it's a hamster wheel nonetheless, driven by spending that aligns with their peer group rather than their own financial future.
Economically speaking, these folks are making a very specific trade. They are trading the secure, long-term stability of retained wealth for the immediate, socially driven dopamine fix of spending. Think of it like choosing a thrilling but totally toxic relationship over a secure, stable partner. Retaining wealth gives you safety, but spending it, well, that gives you the immediate feeling of looking rich.
Now we arrive at Section 4, the ultimate cost: health, the mortality externalities of economic stress. We have to examine the most severe and, frankly, the most alarming externality of this whole economic equation. And that's the direct correlation between high living costs, financial stress, and the biological toll on the human body. A recent minority staff report from the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, or the HELP Committee, provides stark institutional data on this. They found a direct statistical correlation between your income bracket and your mortality. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't just an economic inconvenience anymore, it's a profound predictor of your life expectancy.
When you look objectively at the Senate report data, the economic disparity translates into a fatal reality. People living in the top 1% of counties by income live an average of 84.3 years. Those in the bottom 50%, they live an average of 77.4 years. Chronic financial stress, struggling to afford basic healthcare and nutritious food, is quite literally extracting 7 years of life from the working class.
To humanize these numbers a bit, we look to citizens like Caitlin from Colorado, who was cited in the Senate report. Her congenital heart defect is physically exacerbated by the relentless anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck. When you're constantly worried about paying rent or affording groceries, that chronic stress triggers cardiovascular issues, sleep disorders, and depression. It is a very real public health emergency born directly from an economic structural trap.
These comparative numbers brilliantly illustrate the fractured nature of the U.S. economy. Our wealthiest counties experience life expectancies of 84 years, which is totally on par with nations like Japan and Switzerland. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% mirror countries like Nicaragua at 77 years, and our poorest rural counties parallel developing nations like Cambodia at 71 years. The wealth gap is definitively a health gap.
Which brings us to our final area, Section 5, Navigating the Structural Trap and Strategic Financial Survival. With systemic inflation and massive fixed costs creating such intense pressure, how can an individual actually survive this macroeconomic structure? Well, while you can't control national interest rates or the cost of housing in your city, you absolutely can rigorously defend your personal microeconomy. First, stop measuring yourself against the inflated, credit-funded lifestyle expectations of your peers. Second, track every single dollar to ruthlessly combat that lifestyle creep. And third, fundamentally reorganize your cash flow by paying yourself first. Split your direct deposits so savings are captured before you even see the money in your checking account.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought to evaluate your own budget and mindset. We've seen the data. Financial stress doesn't just drain your wallet, it literally drains your lifespan. In an economy that is structurally designed to extract your capital, choosing the life-extending safety of actual wealth over the fleeting dopamine of looking rich might just be the ultimate act of rebellion. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you take control of your own microeconomy.